Now, as we near ever closer to the final day of the Ladies Gaelic Football Inter-County calendar, we have three All-Ireland finals that need decisioning on August 13th in Croke Park. The second one on the day is the intermediate decider, and that is, of course, between Kildare and Clare, a repeat of the 2016 final. And no better person to talk about Clare football than Laurie Ryan, a former captain, current player, and for those of you from Athlone, might look familiar as well as being the captain of the Women's Premier Division side as well. But Laurie, as I mentioned there, look, an All Ireland final to look forward to. I'd say there's plenty of buzz and excitement around Clare at the moment.
Yeah, I think everyone's just really enjoying the fact that we qualified for the All Ireland. I suppose the Clare Junior Camogie here up there this weekend as well, so it's great for the two women's teams to be heading there at this time of the year. And there'd be a lot of girls that we would have played football with going up this weekend. So just between the two of us, I think there's a big buzz around the place in general. And then even just within the kind of football circles, everyone's delighted and really looking forward to a day out up in Croke Park, which we haven't had in a long time.
You mentioned that. I suppose you have that experience of playing, of course, in Crow Park. I suppose what's the mental and physical preparations that go into the few days just before playing probably one of the biggest games in the biggest venue that we have in this country?
Yeah, I suppose like it's really new to majority of our squad, and I think for them it's just about understanding that it is another match at the end of the day. A lot of them have been in Croke Park for other matches, so they know how big it is, and it can be a bit over like awing on the day nearly that you're kind of coming out and you're like, oh my god. And I suppose with the ladies finals as well, one of the biggest kind of things is that the noise level on the day is massive in comparison to maybe what we're used to on other matches. So just trying to tell the girls like how that is, and kind of take each training as it comes and not look too far ahead for ourselves, and enjoy the build up as well. Like it's not every year you qualify for an All Ireland, and you do have to enjoy these moments as well because they don't come around as often as you might think they do. And that's something you learn, I suppose, as you push on a little bit, that you do have to enjoy and embrace these moments because they might come around again for a while.
Yeah, when you mentioned, for Clare, I suppose that the All Ireland final appearances have kind of been a rare commodity over the last few years. 2016 was the last time you've been in a final. Before that, it would have been the 2009 win. Looking at 2016, I think only four of that squad are still around in the panel this year as well. So obviously you being one of them, but is that kind of, you mentioned that the girls who mightn't have the experience of playing in Crow Park or might be a little bit nervous because it's definitely, I suppose, a nerve-wracking experience to play the All Ireland final in the first place. But are you and some of the other girls that were there in 2016 now kind of mentoring some of the younger players and kind of giving them a bit of words of wisdom ahead of the this year's All Ireland?
Yeah, so like myself and I think it was the three Harveys would have been
Hmm.
the ones involved back in 2016, and they all would have played on the day as well, so they've all had that experience of playing there. And like Quiva's captain this year, Claire, and I suppose looking back for her, she was only 16 or 17 at the time when we were playing in Croke Park, so she understands that situation, and I suppose she's always there to help the girls along in the squad that might be younger and mightn't have had any experience in playing in bigger matches. So it is something that you have to be aware of. And I suppose the thing is, Kildare are probably in a similar boat. They've had a lot of turnover since 2016, and I don't think they've played there since then either.
No.
So I think like it's going to be the same for both teams on the day. So not to read too much into it either, because you don't want to let it be a big kind of elephant in the room that we're all focused on, oh, this Crow Park, it's amazing. Like you do want to focus on making sure that we play football and you come off the pitch after giving your best performance that you can. And they're the kind of things, I suppose, like as I say, when you get a bit older you do realise it's about focusing on the performance. And like I know myself last year going into say the cup final with Athlone, we had young girls that would have been very nervous on the day, and you just kind of have to take it in your stride. And you do, like, and I always say it, you have to realize it's just another game at the end of the day. Like the surroundings might be a little bit different, there might be a few more people there, but it's no different to any other game that we've played. And like you go in with the same goal of winning the match as well. So they're the kind of things that I'd always be saying to anyone if they were getting a bit nervous or anything like that, that it's the same as the All Ireland semi final. You just have to go out and try to perform and win. the venue, the pitch, like it's all pretty much similar sizing and all that. It's just the atmosphere is different, and that's kind of the big one that kind of can throw people on the day.
Yeah. Would you say, like, probably one of the things that does throw people is, you put on the Clare jersey the same as you put on the Clare jersey, regardless of where you play. But when you run out, you have, the music blaring on the speaker system in Croke Park, the atmosphere. Does that kind of, when you get those maybe, nervous butterflies kind of in the stomach, where, when you first ran out into the field in 2016, were you a little bit nervous? Were you kind of trying to soak up the atmosphere, or just kind of, as you said there, focusing on the mentality of, look, it's just like I'm playing for Clare and Ennis or wherever else we've been playing along the championship. It's just another game. Just focus on it.
Yeah, definitely it is. It when you do come out, it is a big difference. And there's probably a lot of thousands more than what would be at other games, and like it is you're going to be taken aback. Like I think anyone is, and I was probably the same in 2016 when I came out. I was like, oh my god. And your warm up is kind of shorter on the field. There's lots of little things, say, that you're not used to. Everything's timed obviously to perfection as well. So they're all things that you kind of have to take into account, and like you just need to be aware of them. Like I think once you're aware of them and you understand that we're going to be a little more like rushed, potentially you have to do a parade, there's little things like that you might do every other day, that you can kind of just hopefully take it in your stride. And I think that's where it'll come into the me and the three Harveys talking to all the other girls and just making sure they're good on the day as well. Like as in we've been there, we know what it's like, we know how it can be a big day and there's so much noise and there's so many things happening that you can get distracted. But it's about making sure that you keep focused. And I think probably since 2016, for myself anyway, like for me going out there in 2016, it was like do or die, have to win that football match. But you gain a lot of perspective on like it is just another game at the end of the day, and you have to enjoy what you're doing. And like all of us are really enjoying playing for Clare this year, and like we have a really good bond within the team, and I think that's what's making it so fun. And you can't forget that on All Ireland final day either. Like you do have to understand it's just another game, and it's a massive day, and it's so good to be part of. But and enjoy every minute of it as well, I always say. But you do have to like just focus on playing football at the end of it.
And I know you said there, yourself and the Harveys kind of have to give, I suppose, the words of wisdom, maybe a little bit of mentoring to some of the younger girls in the squad. I remember reading an interview you done, I think, a few years ago, where you mentioned kind of the early days of coming into the Clare team, where it was Louise Henchy was kind of the person that put the arm around you and gave you the support. Obviously, she was the captain in 2009, so you would have seen her, I suppose, as a supporter watching Clare from the sidelines back then. But is a kind of role reversal now for yourself and the three Harveys, that it's like you're the mentors for some of the younger girls who've come through the ranks now to be, I suppose, pivotal to trying to get Clare over the line?
Yeah, it's funny. Like Louise Henchy is still someone I'd always text if I have a football thing going on. But yeah, like I was so lucky when I came in 2010 that like she used to collect me, bring me to training, like let me do everything with her basically. And I'm still lucky that I get to play club football with her. So it was great to have her and to just have her as a role model to look up to and kind of see how she handled herself in every situation, whether it was a club league game or an All Ireland final with Clare. Like she'd always be the one person that have her head screwed on. And I think you do, as you get older in the team and that you've been there for a number of years, you have that kind of role, and that girls will nearly be asking you questions or just like being like, oh, what was it like or how was it and stuff like that. So it is great to have the opportunity to help them. But like that, like we've girls in the team that have really stepped up as leaders this year, and like Fidelma, Chloe, Shifra, Niconnell and Ashton Reedy, alongside say the three Harveys as well, who are brilliant. And I think that's what's making it so special within the group, is that everyone is just trying to do their best for the team and like help each other. And you kind of recognize if a girl looks a bit nervous maybe on a given day and stuff like that everyone kind of rallies around and helps each other out.
Was Louise someone that you would have approached when you were announced as captain back in 2016? I think you were 21 at the time, being thrown into the role as being the captain, the big leader. But having had her still in the panel and being someone that you looked up to, did she help you to kind of understand the role and then take on the role as captain and maybe build yourself and to, progress further throughout your career playing for Clare?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think no matter what it is, whether it's soccer or football, if I have anything going on, I always kind of text Louise and say, "Hey, you're out for a coffee." Like, she's been a brilliant role model, and like I've been really lucky. I've got to play club soccer with her, club football with her. For Clare, like we've done a lot together over the years. And she was just very good to me when I was younger. Say that she would always make sure that I had my lift to training, and stuff like that. And we'd lots of chats on the way to training and stuff like that as well. So she kind of really mentored me through it all. And I suppose when I was captain, she was still involved in the team as well. So it was great to have her guidance, and I could always kind of rely on her to kind of go to and just be like, "Oh, look, this, what do you think of this?" Or "How do you think I should handle this situation?" and stuff like that. And even like with Athlone and stuff, like I've often got on to her and been like, "Oh, what would you do in these situations?" She's just a brilliant person, and like we're really blessed to have her in the club and the banner and still playing. And like she's so she's such an idol, I think, for a lot of us that have grown up within the club. I think it kind of, even was it 2 years ago, she did her cruciate in the club final and she came back fitter than ever, like, and you're just looking at her saying, "How are you still doing it?" And she kind of drives everyone on then to want to buy into things and push on and be the best she can be. And yeah, she's just such a brilliant leader. And I think like she was captain in 2009 and she's been there and done it as well, so that's what makes her such a good person to talk to. And like, even she was one of the first people to text me after we qualified for the All Ireland as well. She'd be the happiest person for all of us, which is great. I think that's kind of a big theme within our club at home, and the banner, that they'd all just want us to do really well, and they're just so proud as clubmates, and that kind of pushes you on as well to want to perform for them within the county setup. So yeah, it's great to have people like that around you.
It's always good to have those like locker room leaders, as they're called, or people that you can to rely on to give those inspirational words of wisdom and stuff like that. And I know you mentioned the soccer background as well. I think soccer might have been number one before you turned to get to Gaelic football as well. And you mentioned, you played underage, you played for Lifford Ladies as well, and stuff like that. But how did it transpire? You've been playing intercounty for Clare and everything. I suppose the move to Athlone, I know you're obviously working at Athlone at the moment, but was the Women's League of Ireland always on your radar, or did it kind of just fall in that you were like going, "Oh, might try something new here and give Women's League of Ireland a go"?
So yeah, I'd actually in 2019 got a concussion with Clare, and
Mm.
I just decided at the end of that year that I was going to take a break from football. And as it happened, COVID happened. So there was really no football that I missed out on. But I ended up moving to Athlone for work, and with COVID, I kind of properly moved up there because I'd lived with my nana in Ennis, and I just didn't want to be risking anything with students and stuff like that by coming home to her. Then we went into lockdown, and I was still in Athlone, and with Lifford, every now and then, Ashley News, a girl I would have played with, would text me and be like, "Have you any interest in playing for Lifford?" And I'd always be like, "No, I'm playing Gaelic football." And then as it happened, I was like, "Oh no, I'm not playing even Gaelic football this year. I'm actually just living in Athlone, so I can't play." And she was like, "Would you play with a team up there?" And I actually was like, "Oh, do you know what? It'd be nice to meet people up in Athlone and try out soccer again." And especially when I wasn't playing for Clare, I think it was kind of a nice kind of hobby nearly that I was going to find up there. And she texted me and said, "Oh, that's great. I just started. You're going training wherever tomorrow or on Tuesday," she said. And I was like, "Oh, that's perfect." And whatever happened then, I was like, "Is that Athlone Town, like in the League of Ireland?" And she was like, "Yeah, you're going in for trials with them. It'll be great for you." And I was just like, "I don't know what this woman is doing to me," but I ordered my boots anyway. And as it happened, a few people probably know this, but Tommy delivered them to me, the former manager of Athlone. And he was just like, "Are you Laurie Ryan, the Gaelic footballer?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, you're coming training with Athlone tonight. I'm the manager. I'll see you there." And at the time, I wasn't 100% that I was going anywhere, because I was just like, "Oh, do you know, I don't know if I want to do soccer at that level." And I went over that night, and myself and Roisin Malloy actually always laughed that we trained with the under-19s, and the both of us were like, "Oh, let's give this up, like we're terrible." And we were nearly kind of embarrassed. We were so poor at the time, but they stuck with us anyway, and the two of us kept going back, and just happened they kept the both of us on, and it was in with the seniors then. And it got all kind of happened just really fast. Like that was January, and we started the league then I think in March, so it was a really quick turnaround. And I've been there since, I suppose, but joined back the football as well, so that was definitely adding more to my plate by doing the both. But I just really enjoyed the both of them, and I love that they've both allowed me to play both and work together to make sure that they kind of get the best out of me as well, which has been great.
And that's definitely a fairly baptism of fire that you're right. Here's your training. Here's, just go and play with them. You're like, okay, grand. A few years later, you're captain in the team and you're performing well in the League of Ireland, and obviously got them to the FAI Cup Final last year, and you were in the President's Cup Final this year as well. So definitely been a hectic but enjoyable time with Athlone. And when I talk about hectic, some weekends last year for yourself, I guess, would have been fairly busy. And I think that's where the decision came that you kind of shelved the inter-county career with Clare. And obviously you've came out of inter-county retirement, should I say, for this year. But some of those weekends last year must have been exceptionally busy for you.
Yeah, like there was some weekends where you'd play a 7 o'clock kickoff in Athlone, and you'd be getting home into Athlone at 9:30, and you might have a match in Tipperary the next day at 2. So like the recovery was from the moment the final whistle went with the soccer, you'd be getting as much food into you as possible, without eating so much that you wouldn't sleep, because that'd be the next thing you'd have to try to do. And I was really lucky, like at the time. They were everyone was really helpful towards me, and my boyfriend would often drive me, so that saved me having to do a bulk of the work, that I could actually just relax in the car. And it really helped on at the time. Like there was one weekend last year, and I actually can never forget it. We had Wexford away, so like getting to Wexford is a long journey, and from there I actually went and stayed at my uncle's house in Dublin and travelled to Down the next day for championship with Clare, the first round. And I went home and I must have slept 12 hours, because I was like, this is the worst I've ever felt in my life. And like, I suppose the lucky thing for me at the time was it was summer, so I actually didn't have work on the Monday, because I don't think I could have functioned. Um, and it was just things like that I don't think I could have managed to do both, especially with the league this year going back up to the 7 games. That was probably in my favour last year when it was only 4. But yeah, it was tough. And as well, I think this year, like a big decision for me was my nana passed away last summer. So when I was traveling home, I was always staying with her, and I would have come home for her anyway. Whereas when I wasn't coming home to someone in the house, it was kind of going to be a harder decision to be traveling up and down to Clare. So that probably put me off for the league as well, that I didn't really want to be coming home to no one, especially when it's still very upsetting. So in fairness to Wayne, like he really understood when I explained circumstances to him, and he always left the door open for me, which was great. And I think by the time they had played the league and stuff like that, I don't know what happened, because I was planning on going away, and then just one day I woke up and I was like, I think I'm going to go back to football. So I do think my nana was looking down on me there, because I'd convinced my boyfriend for 2 weeks to go to Vietnam, and then he committed to it, and I was like, actually, I think I'm going to go back playing for Clare. So he was like, oh, I was just waiting for whenever you'd say that. So he kind of knew anyway. But yeah, so like it was really tough doing the boat, and like Chloe Maloney does it as well. So it's nice to have someone that's going through the struggle with you when you're doing the long trips, like with the League of Ireland, you could end up anywhere. To have to either come back and train on a Sunday morning or travel for a match was tough going. And I was just lucky last year. Evan was very helpful with the football side of things, and Wayne this year is the same. So it's really helped me to allow me to do both.
And I know, when you're talking about the work rates and the commitments, obviously you came back into the squad then for the summer championships. Did the League of Ireland this year, having that bit of the summer break, I know we had the All Ireland Cup, but because of the Women's World Cup, there was a nice little rest period. I know the league isn't going to come back now for a few weeks. It's even after the All Ireland final as well. So has that kind of given you the chance to go more full time with Clare, whereas last year during the summer you would have had to balance full time with Athlone and full time with Clare going into the championship season?
Yeah, it's definitely like that was also a big kind of factor in my decision as well. Like we had the 2 or 3 weeks off with Athlone that allowed me to just kind of base myself more in Clare rather than be traveling the roads, because like it is hectic enough when you're training at Athlone Monday, Tuesday, you're down to Clare Wednesday, back up for Athlone training Thursday, down to Clare Friday, back up to Athlone on Saturday, down to Clare Sunday. So it was more the traveling like is the killer. Like I love training. I train every night of the week, no problem. It's the actual sitting in the car and driving for an hour, 20 or 2 hours, depending on where you're going. That often I find the hardest part of it. So yeah, it was brilliant to have that break with Athlone. And I think as well with the way things went with Athlone this season, that we have a new manager coming in and stuff like that, that it was nearly nice to come back fresh for that as well, which kind of really helped things, made it kind of more able to look forward to the second half of the season. And I think it kind of fell kind of in a way in a good place for us in Athlone. So yeah, it's been a big help to me, and it allowed me to kind of to refresh myself. Whenever I go to either of the physios, they're always like, oh, the one thing you need is rest. And I always say to them, who knew rest would actually heal me after we have a little break? But yeah, no, it's been good to have that break, and it makes you kind of eager to look forward to coming back as well. And I suppose the cup starting this side of the season is great too, so it gives you a whole new competition to look forward to as well.
So playing for Clare since 2010, it's 13 years now in the banner. You're back this year, second All Ireland final in that space of time, second one that you will have played in. So it's definitely a daunting time as well. Trying to prepare yourself because you haven't been there for so long, but it's also exciting. It's Kildare again. Kildare were the same opponents in 2016. Kildare played Clare in the league as well, and Kildare came through that game as well, tightest the margins as well. But I'm sure now going into that game against Clare All Ireland final, it's going to be an absolute slogfest between the two of you.
Yeah, definitely. I think you'd say the two best performers. I think neither of us have been beaten in the All Ireland series this year, and I suppose in the league, like Kildare beat Clare twice, so like they are a really really good side. They're very well set up. They have brilliant players. Like I know myself, Roisin Byrne was there in 2016, and she's a real talent within that squad. And like I know Grace Clifford was actually injured in 2016, so like for her, she's really going to want to push on and lead them to All Ireland. But look, I think as we've approached every match, like every team has brilliant players, and so do we. But I think it's going to be, hopefully, a great game. And I think if both teams go out and perform to the best of their ability, there won't be much in it. Like it's been that way all year. Kicking the ball, I think it's only been a point that's been in it both times nearly. And I think that's probably the way it'll go on the day. So yeah, we're just really looking forward to the chance to play them again. I think that's kind of what we've been looking forward to throughout the campaign as we've progressed, is like you want to play the best teams in intermediate, and they definitely are one of them. And like we're just really looking forward to getting a chance to play against them again, especially after the league final being so close as well.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I said it'll be a toss of the coin between the two of you, but definitely the atmosphere for two teams, as we mentioned earlier, two teams that have not been in an All-Ireland final since facing each other way back when, definitely tough to call, but the lure of senior county or senior intercounty championship to come with it as well. We'll have to see what will happen, but you might get a week off for Athlone if you win the week after. We'll have to see what way that goes with your work schedule, but it works out for you. You'll be straight back to Athlone after the intercounty season, so you won't have to worry too much more about it. But look, Laurie, thanks for joining me today to have the chat about ahead of the All Ireland final between yourselves and Kildare, and of course, best of luck to yourself and your teammates on Sunday.
Thanks so much.